No topics are safe from comments from the Peanut Gallery. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz, coming to you live from Performance MMA here in Englewood, Colorado. I'm here with a very special guest here today, Jordan Titoni.
How you doing, everybody? Yeah, just really happy to be on the show. Thank you for this chance. I appreciate it, Jordan.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on today. Why don't you just tell us a little bit, what team, what camp are you fighting out of? You have a fight coming up. Tell us a little bit about what's going on for you now.
Cool, yeah. So, been training here in Factory X in Englewood, Colorado for about 6 years now. It's the only place I've trained since I started my career in MMA, and I absolutely love it here. A lot of people come and go, and they always tell me it's a great gym. They're always like, yeah, you're a fortunate guy to have landed here, and I always say, I know, so yeah, I love it here. But yeah, talking about my fight coming up, it's March 16th against Trevor Massey for a Paramount promotion. We'll be fighting at the National Western Complex here in Denver. Trevor's a great kid. I fought him before, actually, in kickboxing. He won that fight years ago. So I'm happy to get the chance to get a little vengeance, if you will.
Very nice. Always nice to kind of revisit those old ones that they didn't go exactly your way.
Absolutely.
Just sitting here at the gym. This is the first time that I've been out on the road doing a show. It kind of has some famous background to it. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's guys who have been training here, that have reached the highest level of the sport. Joe Warren is a big name who's he's an ex-world champ for Bellator. In 2 weight classes. We got Chris Camozzi, who is an outstanding UFC vet. 16 fights in the UFC is almost unheard of, unless you're fighting, the top 10 guys. We got, your Dustin Jacobys and just a whole bunch of guys who have, laid down the path for us up and comers, and I'm really happy and fortunate to be here.
That's awesome. With that being said, what would you say has been the biggest strong suit to your MMA game as you've been taking the progression of your career the last few years?
I'd have to say the strongest part of my game is wrestling. Obviously, coming from a wrestling background is going to do that for you. I've been wrestling since I was in the 4th grade. Did a little bit of wrestling in college. So I've that's definitely been the strongest part of my game. The hardest part of that, though, is learning how to apply that to your game and not A, let it consume your game, or B, you try to turn so hard from it to round out the rest of your game that you kind of forget about it. So I've tried to find that balance of just being a really good MMA fighter who's a strong wrestler, Not the other way around, like a good wrestler who's a decent MMA fighter,
Makes sense, sir.
Yeah.
With wrestling being your strongest, your strongest area of your background, you've definitely catapulted yourself to some different levels of accredited success within other disciplines of martial arts. Where are you at with some of those other disciplines?
I dove into jiu-jitsu right away when I got in the gym because I knew it was going to be a good fit, just coming from that wrestling background. They're both grappling sports. So I probably, the first 3-4 years here, I just really focused on that and, tried to make that equally as strong as my wrestling game. I'm now a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and I feel like I'm knocking at the door to brown belt, although I don't really want that much responsibility in my life as a brown belt. He showed me the ropes. I did 400 hours of internship with him to then, earn my spot as a, assistant Muay Thai coach here. And now I'm holding mitts for fighters on the team and doing private lessons for guys on the team, stuff like that. And I feel like my striking and jiu-jitsu are now, on par with anybody out there. I don't fear any aspect of the game with anybody now.
Okay. Well, with that said, you've had to face your fair share of hardship within the first couple of years of your career. Facing some injuries. You feel like you're up there with the best of the best within your division. You've had to battle back from some adversity. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, I was having a good run of things as an amateur. I went 5-0. I had my first pro fight down in Pueblo back in August of 15, I believe it was. Won that fight, and then I was scheduled to fight for LFA in January. I believe it was January 11th of 16, and I broke my forearm in practice about a week before the fight, and that set me back pretty hard. Mentally, it was really hard to just wrap my head around. You can sit on the sidelines for 6-7 months and still have a good career. You can still get back out there and get going again. So once I figured that out, it was a little easier. But before that, I was definitely worried about what the future would hold for me. But I got back on it, got it training again. Had a fight that year in July. That fight, my first fight back, I broke my arm again, the very same arm. I blocked a high head kick. I saw it coming late, and I reached for it a little bit, and I snapped my the ulna bone in my forearm again. So that was another 10 months off, and then again it was like that whole mental battle again. Am I even going to be able to bounce back from this? Am I going to be able to continue doing what I love to do? And I just decided that nothing was going to stop me, no matter what happened. And that actually has helped me to impart that wisdom to many guys on this team, because injuries and setbacks, and there's so many things. Like I always tell everybody, there's 100,000 things waiting to hold you back. Which one are you going to let stop you? Because I've seen it happen a lot with this career. There's a lot of potential, and there's a lot of guys who you think they're so great, they should get that shot, they should make it to the top, but then one little thing will get in their way and just stop them in their tracks. And I've seen it happen too many times. I refuse to let it happen to me or any one of my teammates that I can help.
That's awesome. Having that sort of persistence, I feel like that's what separates those who are just good versus those who are destined for potential greatness. With your upcoming fight, what are you looking forward to the most from what you're going to be seeing on March 16th?
I just really love fighting, man. Again, time off is really giving me some perspective on the sport, and I had 2 losses after I broke my arm. Well, I broke my arm, that was a loss, and then my first fight back was a loss. So those were the only 2 losses in my career, and then since then I've been 3 fights in a row. I've won those 3 fights, and just getting back on that horse and getting this perspective of, man, how much I love it, and just that's what I look forward to on fight day, is just to go fight, to go have some fun, go do what I've worked so hard to do. I don't worry about winning and losing, really. I worry about having a good time. I worry about having a good performance and impressing myself, and when I do those things, the fight is just awesome no matter what happens. It's just a lot of fun.
That's awesome. It's unfortunate for the listeners out there that we don't have video embedded yet for the podcast, because if you could see just the passion on Jordan's face as he talks about his love for his craft with MMA, it's really it's moving and it's powerful on that side of things. Jordan, could you see yourself doing anything else other than being a pro MMA fighter at this point in time?
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, because I really couldn't. Yeah. As embedded as I am right now in this sport, to think about doing anything else is almost preposterous. And then to think back on I didn't even really ask to be in this sport, it just kind of happened. I'm just so lucky. I feel so blessed. I literally can't work with others very well. I have a bit of a temper. I'm a fiery Irish Italian boy who just speaks his mind a little bit, and so I don't work well with others, I would say, but in the gym scenario though, like, you have to work with others, but you get to like punch each other in the face, so like you can easily settle any qualms there. Like, it's the perfect fit for me. I really don't know how else to say it, but I love being here. It's the best.
That's great. You said that you kind of just fell into doing MMA. Can you elaborate?
I can. It's a pretty good story, actually. So I was in Colorado Springs working an electrical job. Most of our business, however, was in Denver, so they were talking of moving their shop to Denver. I wanted to live in Denver anyway, so I moved up ahead of the shop, and I was doing a lot of the work that the company had up here. They moved the shop up. The day the shop opened, they fired me. So I was like, oh, great, So I was up here without a job for about 2 weeks, and I called up an old friend I used to do granite countertops with in Colorado Springs. He was in Denver at the time working for a shop, and he said, come subcontract for me, I'll pay you, you'll get by. I started working for him, and his co-worker was a guy named Clint Schnurrenberg, who's actually the brother-in-law of Chris Camozzi, who trains at Factory X, and he's basically the top name of Factory X. He's our team captain, been here the longest anyone, and probably reached the highest levels out of anyone. But his brother-in-law Chris Camozzi was training here, and Clint was training here as well, and Clint invited me that day to the gym. 'Cause he knew I was a wrestler, and then I tried out the gym that day, and I signed up that day because I just knew, like, I loved it. Instantly I was like, yep, this is for me, and the rest is history.
Okay. That's very interesting story there. So have you competed your entire career at the same weight class?
I've had fights at 155 or 150 pounds, catch weights. Never have I like sought out a fight at a higher or lower weight. It just happened out of necessity to, fill in a short notice fight, or, whatever the circumstance may be.
Where do you see yourself within the next, let's just call it 3 years from now? We're starting off 2018. You have a fight kicking off right away in the first quarter of this year. Yeah. Where do you see where do you see the arc and the progression going within the next couple of years?
I got that planned out pretty clearly in my mind, actually. I see myself this year getting 3 to 4 fights minimum against quality opponents, build that record up, and then be at a point where I can then step up to the regional level and potentially fight for like a regional title for like, LFA or something like that. Fight for that title and get some UFC recognition and, be in the UFC within, 2 years is the plan.
Is that where you think that you're about 2 years off fight-wise?
That's the way it looks, yeah. I mean, there's always different circumstances. I could get a short notice fight or something like that could happen. Those are like the lucky scenarios, but I'll never count that out. But definitely like the clear path is definitely about 2 years out, I'd say.
Okay. Well, so that's definitely something for everybody out there to keep your eyes out to see Jordan. Hopefully make it out there onto the big national scene. Make sure that you definitely stay with your eyes peeled for him on the local circuits. Where can the listeners out there follow you?
Well, personally, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I put out posts every now and then, mostly about fighting. Sometimes I'll have a sponsor who I give a shout out to, stuff like that. Other than that, I do fly a little bit low key right now. That's kind of, I would say, the worst aspect of my game is my self-promotion. Because bottom line, as a fighter, you are your business, so you got to promote that business. But I've just been so focused on grinding and fighting, that I haven't developed that aspect as much as I'd like to. But yeah, I'll be making waves, so people are they'll know my name soon enough.
That being said, is there any sponsors or anybody that you'd like to take the opportunity to shout out?
Always I shout out Factory X, my teammates and coaches. They're the backbone. They're the reason I'm who I am today. The skill that I have all comes from them. Other than that, I got Turp House in my corner, a great CBD company that's based in California, doing a lot of stuff for medical uses of CBD and stuff like that. And then you got my management, Jim Walter, great dude, always has my back. I show him a lot of love, and he does the same to me. So yeah, I keep it a pretty tight-knit group right now, though.
Very nice, very nice. Well, so to kind of transition away from the talk on the eve of your or on the upcoming bout on March 16th, kind of transition to something a little bit different, more lifestyle oriented. You had a pretty great article in the Colorado Springs Gazette a few months back, just talking about some of the things that you like to do away from fighting that kind of helps keep your keep your head fresh and everything. You're a big spearfishing fan.
Yes.
It's a little bit of a different thing, especially out here in Colorado. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up just with the big fascination with underwater creatures, and then I really like swimming and diving, especially snorkeling with my brother a lot growing up. And then I took a couple trips. He lived in California for a while. I took a trip out there to see him and did a lot of snorkeling, and I just fell in love with it being under the water, And I came home to Colorado, and I just felt a void, like, man, I need to go do some diving and have some fun in the water. And I looked up, actually, freshwater spearfishing to see if it was even viable. And there's actually, like, tournaments in Colorado for freshwater spearfishing.
Really?
Yeah, they have, like, a website where they tell you the stuff you'll need and where to go and what kind of fish to hunt and all that good stuff. And so I just kind of dug into the information a little bit. Ended up getting a roommate who was equally as outdoorsy as I am, and I convinced him to join up with me. And yeah, last summer we probably went every weekend, and then some weekdays that we could get away. We probably went 60 times last year, I would say, alone, just jumping in the water and hunting for some fish.
That's awesome. So there was a pretty amazing picture that you had put up on your Instagram page of a catfish that about stretched half the length of your body. Is that something that you find out there on the regular, or what's kind of the what do you normally find when you're out there? I don't really know a whole lot about the spearfishing scene. Huge fly fisherman, not a huge spear fisherman.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. You don't see a lot of catfish that big. That was the only one I saw. That was a 36.5-inch blue catfish. I actually looked up the state record. He's a half-inch bigger than the state record, but I ate him, so no one gets to see him. He was delicious.
That's awesome.
Anywho, but yeah, there's every kind of assortment of fish you can imagine under there. But the idea is to just you dive straight down to the bottom and you lay as still as you can. Me and John call it the lay and pray. John's my roommate, but. You lay down there and you just wait, and the fish, they come and they check you out. Like, they'll just swim up to you and look at you, and you pick the biggest one you like, and you take them home for dinner. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, that was literally the only catfish I saw all season long. I think they're a little more skittish.
What do you typically see?
See a lot of carp, ton of carp. Carp are very inquisitive, and then see some bass. I've seen lake trout, muskies. I've seen a lot of stuff, yeah, basically if it's in fresh water, I've seen it, But definitely a ton of bass. Like, I go to Chatfield a lot, and the bass, they just fill up that lake, so they're everywhere. But, yeah.
That's awesome. You know, we're gonna get ready to wrap this thing up here in just a couple of minutes. They're starting some afternoon training sessions here over at Performance MMA, getting that work in today. Jordan, is there anything that you would like to you'd like to throw in as we come to wrap this thing up here today?
No, I mean, I just, again, I appreciate you coming through, letting me tell my story a little bit. You know, there's always more to tell. You know, I've been through a lot of kind of crazy stuff since I started this. You know, I feel like I've grown a lot and changed a lot and learned a lot. So, you know, I'd love a chance to maybe do it again if you ever have the desire.
That's awesome. You know, I would like to say I want to thank you very much for taking the time out of out of your camp and training schedule to sit here with us with Peanuts, with Comments from the Peanut Gallery podcast. No topics are safe from Comments from the Peanut Gallery, including MMA. Today was a great day. You know, I'm very appreciative of let me come down here, record the episode here on site, tour the facility. This has been an awesome opportunity. I definitely look forward to being able to see the outcome of hopefully your positive results on March 16th for the Paramount card here in Denver, Colorado. You know, I definitely, I'm very open to having you on as much as you want to come on. Like I say, my goal with this podcast and with everything with the Comments from the Peanut Gallery site is to do as much Colorado promotion as possible. You know, we're a Colorado-based entity, so we want to make sure that we do as much as we can to take care of our own. Sometimes us being a landlocked state, we get forgotten a little bit. There's a lot of great things that are happening in the box state, and we want to make sure that everybody knows about it. We're just doing everything that we can here with the Peanut Gallery to spread that message and spread the Colorado love. So we want to say thank you very much.
Hey, we thank you as MMA fighters here in Colorado. We thank you a lot for that. You know, I feel like there's a great MMA scene here in Colorado that's a little bit overlooked, and I'd like us to be a little bit more recognized on the national scale for that. So, you know, it starts with fighters doing a good job in their fights and, you know, making a name for themselves, and then it goes over to guys like you willing to help us out and, you know, help spread our name a little bit.
Yep, absolutely. You know, like I say, we are Comments from the Peanut Gallery. You can follow us on Instagram, search Comments from the Peanut Gallery, on Twitter at Peanut Podcast. Look us up on our website, galleriesofpeanuts.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Peanut Sports. Once again, just like to say thank you very much to Jordan Titoni from Performance MMA here live today, recording the show. Kurt CF signing out.